Okay, so hello and welcome to the Circuit of the Americas for round 15 out of 18 of the GPVWC Formula Challenge Championship. I am your commentator for today, Joshua Jones, and the cameras will be done by David Francic. So far we have Roy Schroten at the top of the order, followed by his main championship rival Maciej Młynek. So the gap there is just a tenth of a second, and Młynek, I believe, is on a lap, so that'll be interesting to watch. Following them are Chris Butcher, Pedro Gomez, going very well so far this weekend, Johan Lindberg, Terence Gresh, and Bastian Paisler, followed by Matthew Marquardt, who was actually quickest in practice, so look out for Matthew Marquardt this weekend, because he has obviously proven himself to be good around this track so far. Of course, practice isn't necessarily a very accurate representation of a driver's skill at a certain circuit, but it's a good sort of benchmark to go off. I mean, I've done a bit of racing myself, and I know that every time you go into a qualifying session, you always aim to be faster than your practice time, and this is the lap where you really have to go for it. And talking of going for it, Maciej Młynek appears to be on quite a quick lap so far. I've been watching it with intent so far. It appears to be quite smooth. It doesn't seem to be on the edge like some of the other drivers, but maybe that's a good thing. It's often good to sort of not sit back in a way, but make sure you don't make any silly errors, and actually a lot of the time if a lap feels slower it can be quicker. Now, as I've been saying, that Johan Lindberg has actually gone second in the YTF1 YTF1 car. Of course, the YTF1 cars were actually very quick in practice. As I said, we had Marquardt quickest, we had Johan Lindberg fourth, so that team knows how to do it around this track. Obviously, they've got their setup nailed. We'll have to see where they actually place in the overall qualifying time. But so far, with Lindberg second, they're in a pretty good place so far, I'd say. But it is Roy Schroten leading overall in the dark blue Formula Challenge car. Following his teammate round now at the moment, that'll be Pedro Gomez in the other Thunderdog car just up the road. And Gomez actually going very well this weekend as well. The dark blue livery cars will be two definitely to watch out for this weekend, because as you can see, they are first and fifth at the moment. And first and fifth is definitely a very good combination of positions to be in this series. Now I'm going to switch my commentary back to Maciej Młynek very quickly. The reason his last lap was quite laid back and relaxed was actually because it was an out lap, and the reason he sped up towards the end of that, of course, was because he was setting up for his main lap, and he will be on that lap now. This is his final chance because the timer has ticked to 0, so now it'll just be everyone making last dash attempts to possibly knock off some of the top spots. Maybe the top spot. Of course, it's very difficult to qualify pole in such a competitive race as this. It doesn't gain you any points. So in some series, you see points for first place in qualifying, for example, IndyCar, and for example, GP2 and GP3. But this is not one of those series, so there are no points for the top spot. Talking of the top spot, it's Maciej Młynek who takes the pole position here on that final lap, a 1:48.026. So a flying lap there at the end from Maciej Młynek has put him at the top of the order, and I don't believe that anyone else is on a lap. David Junt, maybe? No, that looks backed off. So it looks as if we have Maciej Młynek on pole, followed by Roy Schroten, Johan Lindberg, Pedro Gomez, Chris Butcher. So Gomez moved up to fourth in the end there, with Butcher very hot on his heels there. Less than a tenth of a second behind. We've got Terence Gresh in sixth, Bastian Paisler, Matthew Marquardt, Patrick Gerber, Matt Klipp. Then it's Brambilla, Plant, Junt, Dabrowski, Wilt, Galka, Ferreira, Koenig, Adriano Harisoa, Conrad Barr, Lucas Zimmerman, Mark Breslin, and Brett Metcalf bringing up the rear, last but not least. So we will now have a very short break until the actual race, which will be an interesting one. I'm looking forward to seeing how this one goes, because the Circuit of the Americas is a very notorious track for its first lap. Of course, we have a mixture of very wide corners in terms of the track width, and also quite narrow corners as well later on in the lap, for example, in the stadium section. So the first lap does sort of feel a bit like a narrowing tube sometimes, and when you try to fit 22 cars through that narrowing tube, it can sometimes get a bit carnage, and we've seen what the first laps can be like so far this season in the championship. So I'm hoping for a clean race. I'm not entirely sure we're going to get one. Let's try to make it around the first lap at least. I know it's a big ask sometimes at this track, but well, let's hope for a clean race. So Munich on pole. We have 2/10 back to Roy Schroten, and then we have actually the top 10 cars within a second of the leader. So looks to be an exciting race. We have 10 cars possibly who could challenge for the win, because those were the 10 cars within a second of each other. Ideally, they'd like to be closer, as I see someone spinning in the pit lane in the background. But ignore that. And yeah, let's get ready for the race start. See a few practice starts going on in the pit lane. Matt Marquardt making his way around to the grid. Lucas Zimmermann as well. Zimmermann with a lot of ground to make up in 21st position. And now they're all heading out onto the grid. So there appears to have been a collision on pit exit with Chris Butcher stopped briefly in the grass. Oh, he's apologised in the chat. So, right. So this is the 5-minute warm-up session before the start of the race. This is just the very last try to get all of the braking points nailed, to figure out what you can and can't do. Ideally, they should have done it. Ideally, they should have already figured out what they need to figure out on that level, but this is just a last chance to get used to the track conditions before the race, which will be started shortly. Johan Lindberg going through the notorious S's. This is the part of the circuit that you think of when you think of the Circuit of the Americas, designed to be very high speed and quite spectacular in qualifying, which indeed it is. Very, very high speed section of the circuit. I mean, Formula 1 cars there this year will be reaching about 4.5 G, so that part of the circuit is not for the faint-hearted. Formula Challenge cars will be significantly less, of course. I'd expect possibly about 2 G, and even though this is a simulator, of course, and the drivers themselves won't be feeling much physical G-force at all, you do have to keep control of the car, you remember, and these are difficult cars to control. I've driven them myself, so I know. I mean, they are allowed the assists on low, I believe. I think they're allowed either traction control or ABS. They're allowed on low. The other one will be completely off. So it's minimal assists, pretty much. And that means that they do have to be very careful about how they brake, how hard they brake, when they brake, and about the acceleration as well, with the lack of traction control. So, this is the Circuit of the Americas, of course, as you can tell by the title. Starts with a high-speed run up to turn 1. Quite sharp uphill at that point. It really doesn't seem as hard uphill on camera as it does when you're actually doing it. In fact, the gradient is so steep. I've seen people demonstrating the steepness by rolling tires down it, and you can see the speed that they pick up by the end of that straight. They are going. I mean, I'm not sure of the exact gradient, but it is a very steep corner, and of course that does affect the turn into turn 1. Not so much as it would if it was severely downhill, because if it was downhill, you'd have gravity to contend with, of course, and it would be easier to lock up and so forth. Uphill, it just makes it harder to actually see the corner, especially the exit of the corner, and you get that as well at turn 11, which is another hairpin just after turn 10, weirdly enough. And that is the corner just at the top part of the circuit. If you look at the track map, the bit that kind of looks a bit like the boot of a shoe. And of course, that, along with turn 1, means that when you are trying to turn into those corners, you heavily rely on the marshal's input to figure out when there's danger on the exit, for example. And you need to rely on your own knowledge of the track as well, because you need to know where the exit is, where you're aiming for, where the apex is, rather, even beforehand. And then, of course, you have to concentrate on getting a good exit for the S's section as well. So there is a lot to think about. There is definitely a lot to think about, but that's just what it means to be a racing driver. After you've been through the high-speed S's section, you head through a kink at turn 10. Very, very difficult when wet, because it is awfully, awfully slippery up there. If you remember the 2015 Formula 1 Grand Prix, several cars went off in qualifying there simply because it was so wet, and because as you got onto the white line, as is natural at that corner, you automatically just go for it, and it catches you out. If you're not wary, it will catch you out, and that does happen. Then you head through a hairpin at turn 11 and down a very, very long straight, the longest straight on the track, slight kink in it at the start, before another heavy braking zone at turn 12, before heading into a very, very difficult stadium section. And this stadium section I find very irritating when I'm driving, because it is very, very difficult to actually make the second corner of each, because of course they are double apexed, the two corners following turn 12, so they will automatically be 13 and 14. Cutting away from my brief ramble, we do have a lot of grid penalties for this event, actually, and I'm going to read them out now. We have 18th position on the grid as Chris Shepherd, so Shepherd has been moved down to 18th. 19th will be Conrad Barr. 20th will be, as my page keeps scrolling down by itself, 20th will be Mark Breslin. 21st will be Brett Metcalf. All of these drivers have got penalties for this event. Lucas Zimmerman will be 22nd. Maciej Młynek. Now this is dramatic. So think about this. Maciej Młynek, the fastest driver in qualifying, will start this race from 23rd position on the grid. The championship leader, 23rd on the grid. And 24th will be Bruno Souza Ferreira, which means that first on the grid will be... I've completely forgotten who just... Was it... It was... What's... Roy Schroten. What am I saying? Of course it was Roy Schroten. So Schroten will be starting from pole position with his championship rival 23rd. So... Of course, this is very, very good news for Roy Schroten. He will be thinking that all of his Christmases have come early. The penalty for Maciej Młynek was picked up in the last round. I'm just going to read out as we hear the call for the grid. Reading out what Mwynek's penalty was for is quite hard because I haven't actually found it. It's down here somewhere. Talk amongst yourselves while I have a brief look. Okay, it doesn't actually say. Okay, well that'll remain a mystery. Maybe if we get to interview him afterwards, we can ask about that. I wasn't actually aware of a penalty for Młynek, so this is quite baffling to me. I haven't heard anything about this, but yes, it's certainly not on my list of retirements. How interesting. But anyway, running through the grid again before the formation lap, we have Roy Schroten on pole, followed by Johan Lindberg, Pedro Gomez, Terence Gresh, Bastian Peisler, Matt Marquardt, Patrick Gerbert, Matt Klipp, Chris Butcher, Daniele Brambilla, David Junt, Matthias Dabrowski, Clemens Vilt, Menno Klont, Michael Galke as the cars head off on their formation lap. Philip Koenig, Thomas Andriama Harasoa. Takes me 2 attempts every time I say that name. I apologise. Chris Shepherd, Conrad Barr, Mark Breslin, Brett Metcalf, Lucas Zimmerman, Maciej Młynek, championship leader, and Bruno Suizo Ferreira bringing up the rear of the field. Now we watch the cars making their way around their formation lap, and it will be approximately 3 minutes until the start of the race. Of course, they have to line up on the grid as well, so it might take slightly longer. It will be as soon as the last car on the grid is into place, and then that will be when the lighting sequence can be put on. So I can tell you what the team in who benefit from all these penalties quite dramatically are the dark blue cars, the Thunderdogs. And this is, of course, because they are now starting first and third, when they should have been starting second and fifth. So, quite dramatic in terms of the actual grid order. And as I said earlier, that team will be thinking that their Christmases have all come bright and early. So, of course, I don't believe Gomez was actually in the last round, so he didn't actually have a chance to pick up a penalty. It seemed as if everyone who did did. Another thing to pick up on is that we do appear to have lost Daniele Brambilla from the order. So Brambilla is in the pits before the end of the formation lap. I don't know what the rules are in this about if you do not head off on the formation lap. I don't believe you can start the race from the pit lane like you can in, I say, real racing. This is real racing, but at the real life version of the Circuit of the Americas. But it does appear that we have lost Daniele Brambilla. So, unfortunately from him, he was going to start 10th on the grid, which is actually a very good grid slot from him there. But unfortunately, that's going to come to nothing. So there's going to be a gap on the grid, and 10th now will be David Yunt. So he will still start from the 11th grid slot, but he will be 10th on the grid effectively. Now, Roy Schroten is in his box at the front of the field. We're waiting for the last few cars to make their way in. Bruno Suizo Ferreira will bring up the rear of the field. Maciej Młynek just doing a brief practice start rather. Right, we're in position. This is the point where the tension builds. This is the point where the drivers get really nervous. Watch for the lights. Go! There we go. And we're off on on the actual start of the race. We have Roy Schroten who moves across and leads into turn 1. Lindberg's going to the inside. Lindberg is up the inside of Roy Schroten, but he's not going to make the move there as Schroten keeps the inside for turn 2. Of course, the nature of this track is that the inside for one corner turns into the outside for another. Talking of inside and outside, they're still side by side. And Lindberg's gone round. Lindberg goes round from second place. Oh my goodness. And all of YTF1's hard work has come to nothing on the first lap. There's another spinner further back. That's it's a car with a white livery, and it started quite far up the order. I believe it was... oh my goodness, there's more carnage down in the field. We've got Michael Galke spun, Conrad Barr has spun, Brambilla did indeed start the race, Brett Metcalf has spun, I believe. Johan Lindberg is out of the race, so it looks like he got collected in that opening incident. So very sadly for Johan Lindberg, it is an opening accident, and that will put him out of the race from such a good grid slot. And I must say, he put up a great battle on that first lap. Absolutely. I mean, he was side by side with Schroten for about 3 corners there. It was a fantastic start to the race from him. Chris Shepherd is missing his front wing, so one of the top drivers in this series, 3 wins to his name so far this year, is missing his front wing further down the order. As is Maciej Młynek. Maciej Młynek is missing his front wing on this opening lap of the the United States round of the GPVWC Formula Challenge Championship. So the championship leader is going to have to make a dive into the pits at the end of this lap, which he does. Unfortunate. That is very unfortunate for Maciej Winner. I don't know how that happened. He probably got caught out. The opening carnage. Well, he must have got caught up in the opening carnage. Shepard has also pitted. So, after the first lap, we have lost Johan Lindberg. And we have lost from the competitive order Chris Shepard and Maciej Winner. At the front of the order, the gap for the lead is now pretty much 2 seconds between Roy Schroten and Terence Gresh, who has inherited second place up the front. Then it's Paisler, Gomez, Butcher, Klont, Dabrowski, Koenig, Junt, Marquard, Wilt, Klipp, Ferreira, Gerber, Breslin, Zimmerman, Metcalf, Brambilla, and Andrea Maharasoa. See, I get it right every second time. And Andrea Maharasoa is now under attack from Konrad Barr, who goes up the inside very nicely. Barr pulls that place for 19th position. Then it's Galka, Winnick, and Shepard, who have both made their way out of the pits. So, the gap up the front is now 2 seconds. The closest battle that I can see near the front is probably that for third place. Bastian Paisler running a very good third place, but only half a second ahead of Pedro Gomez. And I think Terence Gresh made a mistake in that last sector, actually, because he appears to have dropped back as well. So it's getting a bit close for second place now, as Paisler and Gresh goes wide there. So Gresh runs wide on the exit of turn 19. Now, he has to be careful of track limit warnings, of course. That would be more of an issue in qualifying, but in the race as well, there are still stewards watching. And, of course, we've seen from the number of penalties that were given. As Paisler goes to the inside and they make contact! Paisler went to the inside. Oh, and Gomez gets caught up in it too. So Paisler dived to the inside of Terence Gresh. The two made contact. They locked wheels. Both slid sideways into turn 1. Gresh appears to have got away with it. Gomez has got away with it surprisingly well. Paisler as well. But that has completely changed the order up front. Hopefully, I'm a bit worried about Gomez's suspension, actually, because that seemed like a hard clonk. But he appears to have got away with it okay. I'll give him the rest of the lap before saying that again. But second place is now Terence. Well, it was always Terence Gresh, but it's still Terence Gresh somehow. I thought they were both going to be out when they made contact there, but nope. Chris Butcher is now up to third and actually right on the tail of Terence Gresh now. In fact, he might be in the slipstream coming down into turn 12. Let's see what he can do. Gresh goes defensive. Butcher goes to the outside. They're going to be side by side coming down into turn 12. He's going to go for the switchback. Butcher to the inside, which is going to turn. Oh, he's used to cut back again. Dives to the inside and it spin. Butcher goes round and there's contact. It's Dabrowski. Dabrowski clonks straight into the side, or into the front rather, of Chris Butcher's car. Butcher gets going with no obvious damage. Same with Matthias Dabrowski. Very, very surprisingly. Oh my goodness. I'm not exactly sure what pitched Butcher into the spin there. I don't think there was contact with Gresh, but I didn't exactly see it from close up, so I'm not entirely sure. But my goodness, the top 5 have really been in the wars so far this race. So as I was saying, it's Gresh second, Gomez third, Paisler fourth, now Klont fifth, Koenig 6th, Butcher 7th, and Junt 8th. But every time I say that order, something happens and it all changes. So I can't exactly say that as a definitive order, but oh my goodness, I'm going to need a drink of water after this. Right. Battle third, we have Gomez, Paisler, Klont. That is all within a second. Oh no, within a second and a half. So it's close for third, fourth, and fifth there. As we head down now into turn 11. This is one of the prime slipstreaming spots of the track, as we saw last lap, but no one quite close enough yet. A bit of a slide further back. I believe I saw Philip Koenig getting a bit of a slide on as he went through, as he exited turn 11. That might hamper his run down into turn 12, but I don't think that Chris Butcher is going to be close enough to challenge this time round. Gresh appears to have gone very deep into turn 11 there. He took a bit of a tight line on the entrance, which of course is not ideal for a corner such as that. You need to take a wide entry and a tight exit just to maximize your speed on the short straight afterwards, your acceleration rather. But anyway, he appears to have got away with it without losing much time. Meanwhile, someone who has got away with everything without losing much time so far has been Roy Schroten, running away up the front. Now, 6.5 seconds after just a quarter of the race, ahead of Terence Gresh. So, Schroten has been really using the carnage behind to pull out a decent gap. And that's what you need to do, of course, especially in his situation, because his championship rival, Maciej Młynek, is currently running in 22nd position. So this is a great opportunity for Schroten to make up decent points. And he needs to, because there is a 122-point margin for the lead there. So it's all down to the what he can do in this round, and just seeing if he can use this opportunity to possibly gain some points back on Maciej Młynek. And so far, it's looking good for that. I don't want to put the commentator's curse on him. I know this is my first commentary of the series, but so I might not have developed the commentator's curse yet, but I don't want to risk it. Further back, though, we have, well, not much further back, still quite high up the order. We have Philip Koenig, Matthew Marquardt, and David Junt side by side coming down into turn 11. Marquardt has gone defensive from Junt. Junt is going to go around the outside. Nope, not quite there. If he'd got his nose up the inside for turn 12 there, he could have, or turn 13 rather, he could have just possibly popped through on the inside, but you can't always do that. It's easier said than done. But yeah, good battles going on there. This is the battle I'm talking about for 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. Matthias Dabrowski isn't far behind them actually, so I'm going to include 9th in that order. In fact, the whole chain back there seems to be quite evenly spread out now, although I say that as just as Marquardt starts to slipstream Koenig, so doesn't look like he'll be close enough to challenge. Oh, I say that, he's taking a look. He certainly took a very attacking line through turn 1 there, and Koenig's going defensive into turn 2, so Koenig and Marquardt at it there. I was saying that the gaps had stabilised a bit, but these two are obviously are obviously at it up the front. So yeah, that, as I said, that's the battle for 6th position overall. Checking some of the YouTube comments so far, we have a few viewers already. We have Godonna, good evening to him. We have Jeffrey 47, Matthew Allington, Johan Lindberg, who of course was eliminated after the very first lap. And we also have a close battle on track. We have Philip Koenig being slipstreamed by Matthew Marquardt. He goes defensive. Oh no, he goes to the outside into turn 12. Marquardt keeps to the inside, which will turn into the outside of turn 13. This has been a prime overtaking spot. Someone goes wide in the background. That'll be Patrick Gerber possibly. And Koenig has kept the place for now. We have David Junt in 8th position, also getting very close to Marquardt, and also to Dabrowski behind him. Now this is a very, very awkward situation for him, because it's a case of attack or be attacked. And that is one of the worst situations for a driver. You never want to be in that situation, because one mistake, we've seen this plenty of times, one mistake and you could lose 2 or 3 positions. So Marquardt, of course, is in the same position as that. And as I say that, just as if the race wasn't exciting enough already, icy rain. Or not icy rain, it's not exactly winter, but icy rain. It is raining on the camera lens, and the sky has definitely got darker. So with less than... Oh, we had... Pedro Gomez has actually had an off there. So Gomez had been off at turn 1. and that's dropped him slightly through the order there. I believe he was running about 4th, so, and he's now down into 9th, so that's a change of the order up front. I didn't exactly see what happened there. I believe we're right. I'm just seeing a replay of that now on the YouTube stream. Yep, that's just a case of too much power too quickly, possibly helped by the damp conditions, but it was just a case of too much power too quickly, and he's lost a bunch of positions as a result, I'm afraid. Now, Brett Metcalf has dropped behind Maciej Młynek, so Młynek is already making up positions again. Sadly, it doesn't look as if it's going to be enough for points. Now, we have less than half of the race gone so far, so I can't exactly say that for certain, but it's not looking good for Maciej Młynek at the moment, I must say that. Unfortunately for our championship leader. But who knows? We've always got the reverse grid race next, so there's always chance to redeem himself. Really, all he needs to do in this race is basically use it as another qualifying session, basically to just determine his grid position for the next round. Now we have a close battle for. Oh, as I see the order changing, Matthew Marquard's in the pits. Marquard has pitted, so Marquard was running, I believe, 6th position, or 5th actually. So Marquard was running 5th position, and for some reason he's pulled into the pit. So it looks as if, I'd guess, he's probably pitting for wet tyres. We'll see how that goes. I'm going to be keeping an eye on the YouTube stream because there's an onboard camera there. Let's see what kind of tyres he goes on to if he does, and I hope he emerges from the pits again. But if he does, that's a real gamble here because the track, while it is wet, doesn't really look that wet. Now, Bastian Peisler just ran right over the grass on the outside of turn 9 there, and he didn't appear to be too affected by it. So I wouldn't say it's too wet. Indeed, Matthew Marquard has pitted for wet tyres. So Marquard is on wet tyres. Let's see how that does him. So he's the only car, I believe, so far on wet tyres. I'm not entirely. Brett Metcalf is also in the pit, so Metcalf also taking that gamble. Of course, when you're that far down the order, it's good to take risks like that. Oh my goodness! Suso Ferreira launches an absolute dive bomb maneuver to the inside of Lucas Zimmerman for 14th position. He has made it, but there was slight contact there. Now Andrea Maharasoa got it right first time. Is attacking as well. We're going to be down into turn 12 here on lap of the race. Zimmerman to the inside, and Zimmerman's going to get that. Oh no, he's drifted wide. Breslin is also. Oh my goodness, Zimmerman spins. We have. There was contact there. Was that Mark? No, it was Clemens Vilt. So Clemens Vilt unfortunately got caught up in that. He appears to have got away with it. Good recovery from Zimmerman, though. It doesn't appear as if he had much time from that at all. He got going from that very well. Terence Gresh is having to defend for 3rd position going into turn 1. It's all kicking off now. This is for the final spot on the podium as Menno Klont is all over the rear end here for 3rd position, and he's going to hassle him into the S's. Now this is a very difficult. Gresh made a mistake. Gresh has gone wide, and he's actually, and now he's gone wide on the exit. Oh dear, right, yeah, that's going to give Menno Klont the place. So Klont goes through into 3rd position. Gresh did a genuine thing there and backed off so that he didn't clonk Klont going into turn 8. So that's the gentlemanly thing to do, of course. Although he hasn't given it up yet, has he? He's still quite close to Menno there. He's oh, as I see a spin there for David Junt. So Junt spins out of 5th position in turn 11. He's only gone down to 7th. I'm seeing a replay on the live stream now. Actually, it appears he made contact with Philip Koenig. It looked, unfortunately for him, like it was his own fault. He appeared to have his nose where it wasn't wanted. I believe that Koenig did give him enough racing room, so I don't think that Koenig was to blame at all for that. But blows, and that was the result. Right. Back to the battle for 3rd. It appears that Klont appears to have pulled out a bit of a gap on that lap. He's about a second as he pits. So we now have Klont in the pits. Gresh is in the pits as well. Let's see if anyone else pits. Koenig staying out. Dabrowski is pitting. So we have a real mix of strategies here. 3 of the top 6 going into this lap have pitted. And Junt has spun in the pit lane. In on the exit of the pit lane. And again, and Daniele Brambilla spins in the pit lane as well. My goodness, it's carnage. Luckily, both of them appear to have got away without damage. I think Brambilla did touch the wall. Barr is in... Cesar Ferreira is in the pits. Breslin is pitting. Galka is pitting. Vilt is staying out. Gomez is staying out. Gerber is staying out. And let's not forget the race leaders have stayed out too. We have Schroten, Peisler, Koenig, Klont, and Gresh now. So, although Klont and Gresh, of course, pitted for wet tyres. So that is definitely a big shake-up in the order, and it will be very, very interesting to see who will come out on top of this. We're over halfway in the race now. We're about, I'd say about 65% of the way through. So, yeah, it's definitely a risk. I'd say it's more of a risk now for the leaders to have stayed out. I suppose they think that they'd probably lose more time from pitting than they would by staying out, but let's face it, they're going to lose even more time from a spin if that does indeed occur. Right, so the battle for what was third has tightened up again. I think there is less of a gap this time round than there was. This is Klont and Gresh I'm talking about. It's now 4th position, of course, because both of those pitted for wet tyres, as I believe pretty much the rest of the field did. Gomez and Vilt are side by side for 7th, down into turn 12. So 7th place is at stake for Pedro Gomez, who goes defensive. Gerber is right on the tail as well. In fact, Gerber gets past Vilt on the entrance of the corner. Vilt appears to have braked rather early for that now. And actually, I think Gomez is on a charge on his wet tyres. Oh, not Gomez, Gerber. I mean, Gomez appears to be going okay, but Gerber was much further behind Gomez than he was the lap before. And Peisler and Koenig are in the pits. And Schroten has just pitted. So Schroten exits the pits from the lead. And I believe that now everyone is on rain tyres. I'm going to go through the order and check that. So Schroten still leads from Peisler, from Klont. Those two left it very late. In fact, Klont is now right on the rear end of Peisler. So they've come out close, very close. Gresh is right on the rear of Klont, so that is indeed probably the closest battle on track at the moment. Then we have, the top 10 are all on wet tyres. Chris Shepherd is on dry tyres in 12th position. Clements Vilt in, so they are on dry tyres, but I believe they are the only ones. Indeed, they are. So Shepherd and Vilt have stayed out on wet tyres there. Or dry tyres, sorry. As Klont comes under attack from Gresh into turn 11. So Gresh, I think it was less of an attack and more of just a I'm here sort of look to it. So Gresh just letting Klont know he's here. Possibly trying to force him into a mistake. Now he's going on the attack. Klont to the inside of Gresh to turn 12. Not there. Oh, no, rather. Gresh to the inside of Klont to turn 12, rather. That's what I meant. Klont closed the door rather nicely. Gresh possibly came from a bit too far back. Might have been just another to try and unsettle Klont. But also further down the order we have Brambilla and Koenig side by side. This is for 8th position, and Koenig appears to have got that place. I believe that Brambilla was ahead before, but Brambilla dives back to the inside and gets it very nicely, actually. Difficult place to pull a move, I must say. It's a very easy place, the stadium section is, to make a mistake. But indeed, he launches the move, and rather nicely. Koenig is not looking like he wants to give the place up, though. He's still looking over all over the rear of Daniele Brambilla. We're over 3 quarters of the race done now, so we have a quarter of the race remaining, pretty much. Maybe about 20% now. But what an exciting race it has been so far, actually. With the coming into play, and with the tremendous battle for 2nd, 3rd and 4th, which actually appears to have spread out now, unfortunately. Gresh has dropped back from Klont a bit. We have a battle now for 14th place, I see on the live stream, as Conrad Barr goes to the inside, or defends on the inside into turn 1. Marcard goes to the outside. No real opportunity there, and I see Suzo Ferreira and Wilt battling in the background as well. Now, Marcard does appear to be slower through the S's than Conrad Barr. It appeared that time as if he was possibly trying to size up, but got a bit wide and out of the rhythm and dropped back. But whatever the case, actually I think Barr was just really quick through that sector, because he's now to the inside of Chris Shepherd for 13th position. Dive bombs him and through he goes. So Chris Shepherd has been demoted to 14th place. Matthew Marcard is in his slipstream now. And now as we head down into turn 12, Marcard is going to launch to the inside. And if he can keep it alongside there, then he looks to be in a good position for turn 12 here. Indeed, he's done it even before the corner. So it's Barr, Marcard, Shepherd for 13th, 14th, and 15th. That's how the order has sorted itself out there. And also further back, we still have Shepherd and Suzo Ferreira. Ferreira dives to the inside of Shepherd now. Shepherd on his slick tyres, and I believe that it's actually rained more. So I think that it might be that Shepherd is now struggling on the slick tyres. It will be interesting to see as Marcard goes very wide and he loses it. Marcard spins into the gravel trap, stops before the barrier, but that was a big spin. It looked as if he just got a bit wide over the wet section of the track, over the runoff area on the outside. Indeed, I'm watching a replay on the live stream now. Oh, he got on the curb and that forced him out. Yeah, once you get on the curb, it's very easy to just get sucked off and sucked out. As Patrick Gerber's out. Oh dear, what's happened there? I'd like to see a replay on the live stream, please. So Patrick Gerber apparently is out of the race now. He was running quite high up the order actually. I believe as high as possibly about. I think he was in 7th place. So that's a big shame to see Gerber somehow drop out of the order. Clemens Phil now has also pitted for wet tyres, so it looks as if wet tyres are definitely the tyres to be on. Shepherd has pitted. No, Shepherd stayed out. Okay, so Shepherd going for another lap on the slicks, hoping that the track will dry. And the gap for the lead has closed to just 4 seconds. The gap was 9 seconds a few. Now the gap is just 4 seconds. So obviously something has happened there. Maybe there was a slight mistake from Roy Schroten. I can't exactly rewind my time for some reason, so I can't see what happened there. But anyway, it might just be that Peisler has suddenly got a massive burst of speed, because Peisler often runs quite high up the order, but I don't think I've seen him challenge for a win yet this year. I don't think. No, he's won one race. Okay, so he's won one race so far this year. I'm going to briefly research which race that was. So obviously he is capable of a very good result, and indeed the gap again has come down to less than 4 seconds now. So it looks as if it seems to be fluctuating. It was 4 seconds, 5 seconds, 3 seconds. Now that'll be interesting to watch, because it appears as if Peisler and Schroden appear to be swapping sector times here. But whatever the case is, then that'll definitely be an interesting one to watch. And down into turn 12, I believe the gap's actually come down again. We are on the final lap of the race here, of course, as we head through the stadium section for the final time. But the gap's now come down to 2 seconds, so maybe Schroden just asked too much of his tyres, or something like that. Or maybe he's just backed off to try to preserve his lead and not make any silly mistakes. But whatever the case, it looks as if Peisler has done too little too late, and despite the sudden burst of speed at the end here, Roy Schroten is going to exit the final corner and take full advantage of Maciej Młynek's problems. Schroten wins it here at the Circuit of the Americas. Peisler is second, just 1.8 seconds behind him in the end. So the gap was definitely coming down at the end. Terence Gresh, despite a brief scare with Manu Klont earlier in the race, finishes third position. Klont is fourth. Dabrowski is fifth. Gomez is sixth. Daniele Brambilla is seventh. That's a very good result for him there. Philip Koenig will come across the line in 8th, Junt 9th, Matthew Klipp in 10th, Maciej Młynek in 11th, so obviously I didn't actually see him making his way up through the order there, but Młynek actually inherits points there. So Młynek 11th, Bar 12th, maybe Młynek just got his tyre strategy exactly right, Ferreira 13th, Butcher, Butcher are still fighting down into the final corner there, but it appears as if Butcher's got that place. Indeed, he has. So it's Butcher the final points. Matthew Marquardt just outside of the points after that unfortunate spin towards the end of the race. Mike Breslin, Thomas Andrea Maharasoa, second try lucky. Chris Shepherd turned 19 there. So Shepherd not quite finished yet, but as he rounds the final corner now. We did also lose Lucas Zimmerman on that final lap, so for whatever reason, Lucas Zimmerman is out. In fact, I'm seeing a replay of that as Shepherd finishes the race. No, this is not a replay of what happened to Zimmerman. Never mind. And the final place after Clemens Vilt. Well, no. The final place on the lead lap was Brett Metcalf. The final place overall was Clemens Vilt in 21st. That an exciting race. Schroten led it from the start, despite the fact he was side by side with the very unfortunate Johan Lindberg through turn 1 and the Estes. Lindberg lost it. Lindberg crashed out, unfortunately. Many people were caught out in the opening carnage, including championship leader Maciej Młynek. Młynek, of course, ended up with a missing front wing, as did Chris Shepherd, I believe. So they dropped back through the order, but but Młynek took advantage of the rain and, of course, his amazing pace to pick up points in the end anyway. We had spins and battles aplenty. Great battle for third place. Race long between Peisler, Klont and Dabrowski towards the end. Gomez got in there occasionally. And that will be it for this race. So there is a second race. Don't go anywhere. We're going to hear the draw for the reverse grid, whether it's going to be 10th place starting on pole or anywhere down to 15th. But yeah, that is going to be this race, and there's going to be a brief gap before the next one. So see you then. My goodness, I really need a drink of water. Right, that was the call for the... Oh goodness, I haven't put my microphone down. Right, that's better. Right, that was the call to the grid. So the cars will now be making their way out onto the grid for the second round of the... Or rather, the second race of the 15th round of the GPVWC Formula Challenge Championship. And yes, I did just get that right. Probably one of the only abbreviations I can actually get right on the spot. The reverse grid draw has been number 12, which means that Konrad Barr will be starting on pole, but Maciej Młynek will be starting in second position. So, yeah, that's going to be very interesting. Of course, Młynek had to sit back and witness Roy Schroten taking away a lot of championship points from the last round. So he will probably, I say probably, I mean definitely, be hungry for a result here in race 2. So it will be Barr on pole, as I've said. Młynek second as they head away from the grid. It is still wet, by the way. In fact, probably more so than it was in race 1. So this will be interesting. Matt Klipp will be starting third, followed by David Junt. Philip Koenig, Daniel Brambilla, Pedro Gomez, Mateusz Dabrowski, Menno Klont, Terence Gresh, Bastian Peisler, race 1 winner, Roy Schroten. Let's see what he can do from P12. Bruno Souza Ferreira, Chris Butcher, Michael Galka, Matthew Marcard, Thomas Andrea Maharasoa. Second try lucky. Why is it always the second try? Oh, goodness. Chris Shepard, Brett Metcalf, Lucas Zimmerman, Clemens Filt, Patrick Gerber, and at the back, unfortunately, Johan Lindberg. So let's see what Johan Lindberg can do, because he qualified second, of course. Well, started the race second anyway. Of course, got alongside Roy Schroten into turn 1. Sadly, was involved in an accident in the S's. Possibly could have done something very, very special if that had not happened. Of course, Lindberg has been one of the most unlucky drivers so far this year. That appears to happen to him every single round, and the only win so far for that team, the YTF1 team, nicknamed the Team of Bad Luck, by me just then, but yes, has been Matthew Marcard. So Lindberg is long overdue a result. He's a very, very quick driver, as we saw in race 1, of course, and in qualifying, who just hasn't been able to land a result for whatever reason. And well, we'll see if he can soon. I doubt he will in this race because he's starting from the very back, but we'll see. We'll see what he can do. So, Konrad Barr is starting on pole. Of course, we saw Barr right in the thick of the action in race 1, fighting very, very hard with Bruno Souza Ferreira, Chris Butcher. Of course, they're now 13 positions below him, or 12 and 13 positions below him. So, now he has the tougher nuts to crack up the front with the reverse grid, as is so often the case. Of course, the field the front half of the field flips on its head, meaning that you often see basically 12 cars going side by side on the first lap, because the quicker ones will be starting further down the field, and the not so quick, I mean no disrespect, will be starting further up the field. Of course, maybe not so much today, because of course Matthew Mwynek's problems in race 1 hampered him quite a lot, and added him just 11th. But let's see what happens. It'll be an interesting turn 1, definitely. Race 2 is usually the most hectic of the races, and I don't know if I can deal with more hectic than race 1. We also have a bit of moving in the field. I think actually one of the I think it was possibly... I'll tell you later, because here come the lights. Off we go! Konrad Barr leads it away. Maciej Młynek has actually got a really good start. Matt Klipp is coming on the outside, so it's going to possibly be 3 wide into turn 1. Let's see what Młynek can do. I believe that Barr defends nice. Matt Klipp's going to go to the outside. In fact, he's going to go slightly off on the outside. We have a spinner further back. It's one of the Thunderdogs. And also we have the other Brasilia car involved in that as well. So that'll be Mateusz Dabrowski. Pedro Gomez it was who spun. And up the front, it is Konrad Barr who leads it away. So Barr has got the initial lead, followed by Młynek, Junt, Klipp, Brambilla, Koenig. But those two are questionable because they are right on each other there for 5th position. I'm going to concentrate on the lead closely here, because as we come down into turn 11, Winnick has got right up to the rear of Conrad Barr. Surely it's a matter of when, not if, he gets past Conrad Barr. Let's see what happens. It could possibly be at the next corner. He's right in the slipstream here. Of course, he can't actually be in the slipstream for too long in these conditions because of all the spray. He needs to actually be able to see where he's going. Down the inside he comes. He pulls out of the spray, out of the slipstream, and through he goes. Matchim Winnick leads into turn 12, sorry. So Matchim Winnick leads this race from Conrad Barr. We've had an overtake for the lead on this opening lap here. And yeah, Matchim Winnick leads the race from Conrad Barr, David Yunt, Matt Clip. Oh, and a spin for Philip Koenig, or a half spin rather. Pitched it sideways through the stadium section there. Clip got through, but Koenig didn't appear to have actually lost much time there. That was a very good recovery there. As we come out of the final corner, will Barr be able to get back at Winnick here up into turn 1? It'll be a tough ask, but we've seen it done before, where someone has come back at the obvious favourite after lap 1. Using this time, not this time into turn 1. It is still Matchim Winnick leading after lap 1. As we, I believe Roy Schroten had a bit of a wobble there coming through turn 1. We're going to be side by side with Meadow Clont. They touch wheels. Clont and Schroten touch wheels. Sebastian Peisler is right on the rear of them as well. Schroten has made his way up 3 positions already, and Matthew Marcard is right in there as we get a bit of a lag spike on the server, so I can't actually see what's going on. But looking at the live stream, I can't really see much either. Oh, here we go. Right, they're all loading back in again. I very much hope this is not my connection playing up. So we've had an off there. Sorry if there's a delay. I understand why there would be. And that off further back was, I think, David Yunt. As everything suddenly explodes back into life for me again. So that's all fine. We've had a couple of offs at the back. I believe there's one of the is that Roy Vazil? Oh dear. Okay, we've had a... Oh, it's Terence Gresh. Terence Gresh is... Roy Vazil isn't even in this round. What am I talking about? Yeah. So Gresh has obviously had some kind of accident because he's missing his rear wing. I'm seeing it on replay. It was Matthew Marcard. So it looks as if Gresh, for whatever reason, I'm not entirely sure why, but whatever happened, it was Matthew Marcard who made contact with him. And looking at Marcard now, he's actually lost his front wing. Zimmerman has spun mid-corner in the stadium section. Johan Lindberg has actually made his way up the order quite dramatically there. He's up to 14th place already. So good going from Johan Lindberg there. As he goes to the inside of Thomas Andrea Maharasoa. That was more like third try lucky. There you go. I do apologise. Right, so Lindberg did indeed get to the inside of Andrea Maharasoa. Fast try! And passed him through turn 20. Right, let's see who we've lost after lap 1. Unfortunately, we've lost Lucas Zimmerman after that spin. Terence Gresh is in the pits. Daniele Brambilla is in the pits, missing a front wing possibly. Marcard is in the pits. And after that, we have proper runners. So those are the people struggling after lap 1. Conrad Barr has actually caught up half a second to Matchim Winnick there. So the 1.5 seconds rather than 2 seconds full stop. So that's come closer there. And I believe that Clint is Clip to have an attack at Yunt here as we come down into turn 12. Yunt goes defensive for 3rd position. This is the final spot on the podium. Yunt to the inside, Clip to the outside. Clip is going to have his nose ahead before the corner. Yunt forces him wide. He's not going to give that up easily. Clip spins up his wheels on the wet AstroTurf and doesn't get the place to stick just there. So Yunt keeps the 3rd place for now. But I say for now because Clip is looking very, very racy behind David Yunt there. Now, I don't want to put the commentator's curse on anything like I didn't want to in race 1 either. But it's been a relatively clean start. We had a bit of carnage in the stadium section. Lucas Zimmerman getting taken out, unfortunately for him. But apart from that, it did all appear to be rather okay. We didn't have any sort of massive accident up the front of the field like we've seen in the past. It all seems to have been quite a clean a clean getaway. But I really don't want to have spoken too soon. Anyway, Yunt and Clip still close. The gap is 0.7 of a second as we enter the S's for the 4th time in this race. And we've had a fastest lap from Johan Lindberg. So I've said how Lindberg has been forcing his... That's a spin! Clip has spun! Bar has spun! So Clip and Bar have both spun through the S's. I didn't exactly see what happened. I hope I get a replay. Oh, I am seeing a replay now. Oh, it looked as if Bar had already spun and Clip just went round in avoidance. So both of those two, who were running 2nd and 4th, I believe, have now spun quite a way down the order. We have Bar in 7th and Clip in 8th. So that's where those two have rejoined. And yep, they seem to have rejoined rather nicely. We've also had an off in the S's from another car. Also, if we focus on Clont versus Bar, Bar is to the inside of Clont for 6th position. And oh dear, it's all coming to blows there. It's happening faster than I can speak. Clip got up the inside of Bar. There was contact between the two of them. Looks like they've both got away with it, but Clip's gone wide. Oh, there's more contact. Who's that also involved in it? That will be, so there's Gerber and Peisler goes off in the background as well. Oh my goodness, yeah, it was Patrick Gerber. Conrad Barr now goes wide on the exit, and another car, I believe, was Chris Shepherd getting very wobbly further through the order. My goodness, what is happening? So it all got a bit heated for 6th position there, as we see. Oh, okay, we have a pitter, and that will be. Will it be? That'll be Conrad Barr. So Conrad Barr pits after his collision with. Actually, I don't think he actually collided with anyone. So I think Conrad Barr is simply pitting. Is this possibly for slick tyres? Is he taking a gamble here? Nope, still wet. So did he have damage that we didn't see? It looked too quick of a pit stop to be suspension damage. I'm not sure. I'll shrug at that one. I don't know. We'll possibly find out if we get to interview him after the race. I'm not sure that we will, but well, we'll see. Anyway, up the front of the field, the gap for the lead is almost 5 seconds now. Winnick appears to be driving one of the Super Cup cars, so he's already long gone. Then it's Junt, Koenig, Schroten, Butcher, and Clont, followed by Gerber and Clip. Those two are closer than the timing sheet might suggest. But we also have Shepherd and Lindberg side by side for 11th. Shepherd is defending the inside going down into turn 12. Lindberg possibly slightly ahead as we make our way down to the corner. He's on the outside line. In fact, he's made it before the corner. So Lindberg continues his charge up to 11th place now. And that is, yeah, that's another clean position gain for Lindberg. He's a very, very good driver. It's a shame, as I said earlier, it's a shame that he's had so much bad luck so far this year, including so far today, rather, because he of course was eliminated from race 1 in that unfortunate early accident. But we've seen he's a good driver, so he deserves a result. And in fact, he's actually making his way right up through the order here. So who knows? Let's not speculate on where he might finish or put too much commentators' pressure on him. But we'll see. That'll be interesting to spot. Anyway, Philip Koenig is now under pressure from Roy Schroten, the brilliant Roy Schroten, who has made his way from 12th position to 4th position in 6 laps. Oh, you don't see that in other series, do you? Roy Schroten is challenging Philip Koenig for the lead, for 3rd, sorry, for the last podium spot. They were nose to tail into turn 1 this time round. And also, I believe there's a battle going for 7th with Clip, Gerber and Peisler. I'll keep a close eye on that. You don't know where to look in races like this, do you? Well, I'll tell you where to look. Koenig and Schroten, because Schroten is going to go attacking. No, okay. Koenig went a bit defensive down into turn 11. You could tell it was a different line to the one he normally takes. And Schroten is back in the slipstream immediately. Let's see what he can do as we head down into turn 12. This has been one of the prime overtaking spots so far this weekend. Schroten, race 1 winner, is going to the inside of Philip Koenig. And he's going to possibly... Oh, yeah, Koenig gets a bit eager on the throttle out of the corner. Has a bit of a kick of oversteer. And it's going to be Roy Schroten who takes 3rd place. So Schroten is on for a double podium here. And that would be a fantastic result for the Thunderduck driver. He would score plenty more points than his teammate Maciej Młynek, of course, this weekend. As Koenig goes wide. Koenig has gone wide, and Chris Butcher is up to 4th now. So Koenig went wide on the exit of the stadium section there. I'm not sure exactly of the cause of that. Sometimes you can just misjudge your braking by a fraction of a second, and it can just put you out of the groove. Sometimes you can possibly just find, especially in weather like this, you can just find a bit of the track that's possibly worse than another, and that can throw off the car sometimes. But whatever the reason, Chris Butcher is now up to 4th position, and Philip Koenig is now down to 5th. So, the order after the... oh, we've had a spin. Johan Lindberg. Oh, Johan! Johan Lindberg has been for a spin, and it's exactly the same as Matthew Marquardt in race 1. Maybe not with the overcorrection, but it was in exactly the same place, and it was started in exactly the same way. He just got over the curb, forced out wide, and round it went. Oh dear. He's now on the back of Bruno Souza Ferreira. This is for 14th position, so he's not dropped all the way out of the points. But trust me, he's going to be very frustrated there. I know how it feels to be running in a good position and to be having a good race like that. He'd made up 12 positions until that point. And when you've made up 12 positions, all you can think about is making up another and another and another, and then when it suddenly ends and you're thrown back 4 positions by a spin, well, that's a bitter feeling. Trust me, it feels very much like you just want to give up. But these drivers are soldiers, so on they go. Anyway, he's actually dropped slightly back from Souza Ferreira on that lap there, so I wonder if he's possibly flat-spotted his tyres a bit. Riding on board with him in my own personal view, I can see that... Well, I can't really see any flat spots, but it's always harder. It's always harder to get inside to realise what a driver is feeling if you're not that driver, of course. I mean, that goes without saying, but... Anyway, Peisler and Gomez are side by side. Pedro Gomez, my goodness, makes his way around the outside of Bastian Peisler for 12th position. And if you remember at the start of the race, Gomez was last after turn 1 because of that spin. And yes, we've had 2 retirements now. Daniele Brambilla is another. He appears to have, he's got a missing front wing and other damage as well. As Ferreira and Lindberg pit, but anyway, as I was saying, what was I saying? Oh, I believe we've had a slight spin at turn 1. Let's see. Oh, it's Peisler. Oh, well, no, it's not Peisler. It's Pedro Gomez. Well, that's what I was talking about. Yeah, Gomez. Or it seems like Peisler seemed to launch a bit of a dive bomb that Gomez wasn't expecting, and indeed it looks as if he's taken responsibility into his own hands there, because he's waited for Gomez to go, so he believes it was his own fault. And yeah, that's what I was speaking about earlier, how Gomez was of course last place, last place after turn 1, and he's made up plenty of positions so far in this race. I was actually very surprised to see him in the points just then, but in the points he is, and he still is, despite that brief extrication. Right, up to the front of the field, the gap for the lead is still 5 seconds. So it looks as if, just as we had in race 1, we have a title contender pulling away into the distance. This time it's a different one, as Chris Butcher goes for a spin. Chris Butcher at the final corner from 4th position drops down to 5th, and he's going to lose 6th. He's going to lose 5th to Menno Klont as well. So he's now dropped down to 6th position. But he's launched to move to the inside of Klont up into turn 1, and he's gone back into 5th. So he's trying to mitigate the effects of that spin, but that's unfortunate. I mean, he's only lost 1 position from it, but 1 position is 1 position, and every point is a point, of course, goes without saying. So he will be frustrated at himself. I'm just watching a replay now. It just went round on him so quickly, as it often does in wet conditions like this. There's really nothing you can do about it once it starts going. If it goes, it goes, and unfortunately that's just how it happens sometimes. He appears to have also dropped a bit back from Koenig. Oh, rather, well, I say that. He appears to have caught up with the slipstream as we head down into turn 12 now. He is coming under attack from Klont, though, so let's see what Klont can do here. As Klont... Oh, but he's also got the slipstream... Butcher has also got the slipstream from Koenig, so it looks as if that's all going to stay the same on this lap. Indeed, it does. I'm going to keep an eye on this battle, though, because this does appear to be the battle that is closest to the front of the order. And a good battle it is, indeed. And I see someone dropping back through the order further back. Cesar Ferreira and Limburg are battling there, so... That's for 17th position, but Limburg's got that for now. Yeah, as I was saying, the battle that I really want to focus on at the moment is Koenig, Butcher, Klont, because despite the fact they all seem to be maintaining the gaps at the moment, Butcher pits. So whether he's completely shredded his tyres from that spin, oh, and he actually has a big wiggle in the pit lane there. Or he's going to switch onto slicks, because it does appear to be quite dry actually. We'll see, but we're over halfway through the race, so it's a real gamble now. And just as soon as he pits, it starts to rain. So I hope he hasn't gone onto slicks for his own sake. No, he hasn't. He's just had either a refuel or a change of wet tyres. But anyway, that's what's happened. Butcher has had a pit stop from 5th position. Quite a risky strategy, because 5th position is a good place, and if he had managed to keep that position, then he might be able to or if he had tried to fend off other cars, he might still be in a higher position than he will be by the end of this race. But then again, I don't know how bad his tyres were after that spin. I don't know what sort of fuel strategy he's on. You don't tend to see organised pit stops in this series, but you never know. I've seen weirder things in motorsport, so I wouldn't be... Well, I'd be surprised, but I wouldn't be completely shocked. We also have a battle on for 9th place now, as Chris Shepherd is slipstreaming Thomas Andrea Maharasoa. First try, down into turn 12. Don't think he's going to be close enough quite this time round. I thought he was going to be a lot closer before he actually reached the corner than he actually was. He appears to have... I believe Shepherd took a better line through the corner there. He appears to have got right up to the rear of Andrea Maharasoa. And in fact, he's gone through. So Andrea Maharasoa possibly a bit cautious through the first of the 2 stadium corners there. And Shepherd has dived to the inside of the as I've got the hiccups, of the second apex, which is quite an unusual move to pull, but pull it indeed he has. And Shepherd has now moved up to 9th position. Philip Koenig is now in the pits, so we've had another pitter. That is Philip Koenig from 4th position, and indeed it looks as if he went slightly off on the way into the pits. So looks as if the pit entry this weekend has been a bit of a difficult spot of the track. You don't normally associate the pit entry here as a difficult section of the track, but obviously it can be. But oh well. Now, Matt Clipp, of course, inherits 5th place as a result of that, but he's being hounded by Patrick Gerbert, who actually cut one of the S's slightly there. But But yeah, Gerber was slightly closer. I think he actually lost more time through that than he gained, because he appears to be about a tenth behind, a tenth further behind Clip than he was beforehand. So we'll keep an eye on that one. He's also under attack from Matthias Dabrowski. So, of course, these three, I believe, were three of the drivers in the midst of the action in race 1, possibly not with each other, but they were in the midst of the action anyway. So they're none the stranger to fighting on this track. As Johan Lindberg runs a bit wide at turn 9, but we'll ignore that. Koenig is in the slipstream of Conrad Barr here, so the two teammates heading down into turn 12. Again, I don't think it's going to be slightly... Oh, Michael Galka's off! I see that on the stream. Galka has just overcooked it. I'm going to rewind that a bit so I can see exactly what happened. It looks as if he's just got on... Yeah, he's just got on the white line through turn 8. He's overcooked it. He hasn't corrected it, and into the wall he's gone. So there goes his front wing, and he'll be making a pit stop at the end of this lap. Behind him is actually Terence Gresh, who appears to have been struggling so far this race. Whether that's been through struggling with the conditions or on the tyres, or he's been involved in an incident, I'm not too sure. Of course, he was he was initially about he would have been about 10th on the grid, I think. So he's running about he's running 19th now, so he's dropped about 9 positions. I'm not entirely sure what happened there. That would have happened much earlier on in the race, I believe. Now, 6th place is still... Actually, I believe that Clip has pulled out quite a lot from Gerber on this lap, so it looks as if it's over for 5th place. Now it's just about Gerber and Dabrowski for 6th, as Galka does indeed pit for a new front wing. Couple of guys running quite wide going through turn 9, and actually Bastian Peisler is going to have an attack at Pedro Gomez down into turn 11. Gomez goes slightly wide, Peisler runs over the curb, and up ahead Chris Shepherd runs over the curb on the outside. We have a whole chain of 5 cars here, all battling for 8th position in the race, and it looks as if Thomas Andriama Harasoa is looking ahead of that, actually, just cutting away from that. Dabrowski has pulled the move on Gerber down into 11, and now it's all kicking off behind. Shepherd has been hit by Butcher in turn 12. Both of them appear to have got away without any obvious damage, as Andrea Maharasoa is being attacked now by Gomez. Andrea Maharasoa doesn't appear to be that quick through the first of the 2 arena corners. Oh, as we've got a spin for Butcher, and he's collected Peisler as well. Butcher is now driving backwards down the track as he spins it round. He has to be careful that he doesn't get a penalty for that. Actually, we've seen penalties for similar incidents than that in the past. As Roy Schroten pits now, so the race 1 winner tried to stay out until the very last. I mean, it's the penultimate lap, but Schroten appears to have either asked too much of his tyres or decided strategically to take a pit stop. So, right, the order in the top 5 is now Moinek, Junt, Clont, Clip. Junt, Clont, Clip. It's like a tongue twister. Oh, commentator's nightmare. Dabrowski, Gerber, Butcher, Andrea Maharasoa, second try, Gomez, and Peisler. So that's the top 10 here. We do have yellows in Sector 3. I'm not entirely sure what that was. Everyone that I can see appears to be running okay. Yeah, I don't see any more retirements than we had before, so that's good. The leaders have really got away in this race. We've got Winnick and Junt 6 seconds apart up front, and then back to Menno Clont is 22 seconds pretty much. So there is a big gap from first and second to third, and indeed between first and second as well. So unless there is a mistake that happens up the front of the order, as we've had Pedro Gomez going off in the S's. You would have already seen that on your stream, I believe, and Schroten has also got past him there, so Gomez losing places there. So unless there is some sort of drama up the front of the order, then that will be that for now. Now we're on to the final lap of the race here. Maciej Młynek is on to the final lap of the race, up in the lead. Dawid Junt is onto the final lap in second, and Menno Klont is about to start it in third. It's been a very interesting weekend of racing. It looks as if, or at least I was going to say that it looks as if Schroten has made up more points than Winnick, but I'm really not sure now, because actually I think Schroten, if Schroten finishes in his current position, which is 10th, he would probably have made up, I'd say probably, I think he would have made up one more point this weekend than Winnick. And now apparently Chris Shepherd is out of the race, so I'm not sure how that happened. I'm looking at his car now, and there doesn't appear to be any obvious damage. If I can see a replay of that on the stream, that would be nice. But yeah, Chris Shepherd is, yep, definitely out of the race. He's dropping down through the order, so that's a shame for him. And we've got Butcher and Clip, or is it? Oh no, we've got Butcher and Dabrowski side by side into the final corner. It looks as if Butcher is going to go side by side with Clip up into... No, that's a replay. What am I saying? Never mind. Ignore me. What's happened to Chris Shepherd? Shepherd appears to have dropped down the order a bit. Indeed, he's out. Oh, I've already said that, haven't I? Bastian Peisler is also out now. So Peisler's car is motionless in the garage. But anyway, Maciej Młynek is now going to come around the final corner of this final race of the of round 15 here. He exits it, and he's going to win it! So a weekend that started so badly for him, with 23rd on the grid for race 1, has ended with a win. Fantastic! I'm actually quite amazed. That's magic from Maciej. Dawid Junt is second as he crosses the line there. Menno Klont is going to be third. The gap for the win eventually was 8.7. So an 8.7 gap. I'd call that a dominant win from Winnick. Klont is third. Clip is fourth. Butcher will be fifth. Dabrowski will be sixth. Although I tell you what, Gerber appears to have been quite close to him on that final lap. Oh dear, Gerber hits the wall. So Gerber hit the wall on the exit of the final corner there. Koenig, Schroten, Conrad, but side by side with Andrea almost. Oh, he's lost it. Andrea Maharasoa was side by side with Conrad Barr for 10th place. Barr gets 10th place. Lindbergh gets 11th. Andrea Maharasoa spins away that chance. Gomez is 12th. Slight contact after the finish line there, but Marquardt is 14th. Suso Ferreira will be 15th and takes the final point. Terence Gresh has had a spin. He would have taken 16th place. Just seeing a replay again of Andrea Maharasoa. He was just in such an eager state to get that 10th position that he ended up putting the power down too quickly and losing even that position. He ended up finishing 13th, which is still in the points, but not anywhere near as many as 10th. Galka crashes on the final corner as well. He's going to lose a place to his teammate. Gresh crosses the line in 16th. Galka spins it backwards across the line. That's one way to finish it. Clemens Wilt has run out of fuel on the final lap, and Brett Metcalf finishes the race a lap down. Wow, carnage. My goodness. So, to review the order, Winnick, Junt, Klont, Clip, Butcher, Dabrowski, Gerber, Koenig, Schroten, who was in fact 9th in the end. So, Schroten did indeed score more points than Maciej in the end. Then it was Barr, Lindbergh, Gomez, Andrea Maharasoa, Marquardt, Suso Ferreira, Gresh, Galka, Wilt, Peisler, Metcalf, Shepherd, Brambilla, Zimmerman, with everyone below Wilt being either a non-finisher or a lapped car. Phew, that was a rather hectic weekend. Plenty of rain, plenty of action. My goodness, what a weekend that was. I must say it was very hard on my voice. There were plenty of good battles going on all throughout the field, all the while. Championship battle has stayed pretty much exactly the same, actually, and that's exactly what Winnick wanted to happen, because Winnick was so far ahead on points. All he needs to do now is pick up the points where he needs to, and just wind away the time, make it so that Schroten cannot build up those points in that time, and that's indeed what he did today. So despite the fact Schroten scored more points this weekend than Winnick, with a first and a ninth rather than a first and 11th in Winnick's case, Winnick will still be leading the championship by a comfortable margin, over 110 points. And my goodness, what a race. So we're just waiting for the interviews now. I'll bring them to you when we get them. I'm hoping to interview the race leaders, or the race winners rather. So that would be Schroten and Winnick, who of course are also the top two in the championship. Whew, that was that was rather hectic. I'm just going to post a message saying that the interviews are up and coming. So let's see who's going to be the first one here. It looks as if it's going to be Menno Klont. So I'll oh no, right, everyone's loading in here. I'll do it in terms of races. So Schroten first. Right, when I bring him in a second. Roy, can you hear us?
Yes, hello.
Have I got my sound turned on? I can't hear you if you're speaking. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. I don't know. Can you hear me? I've had this issue before.
I can't hear you, Roy. I'm sorry. Oh dear. Right. Oh, David. Okay, well, it must be a problem on my end. What's happened here? Oh dear. What if I? No. Okay. Well, apparently
you can ask the question.
Apparently he can be heard by the cameraman, but I can't hear Roy myself. So it looks like we're going to have to abandon that. Okay, everyone's been added to the broadcast room now. If you'll speak for a second, I'm having trouble actually hearing people. Let's see if I can hear any of you.
Hello. Can you hear me? Hello?
I can't hear anyone. Oh,
hello.
my God.
Hello. Hello.
Oh, I tell you why. Oh, I'm such a numpty. It's because I turned my Discord sound off so I didn't get notifications. Okay, hold on a second. Oh, dear. Right. Discord sound on. My goodness. Right, all sorted. Right. Roy, you won race 1, of course. We saw that happening. Of course, I'm not saying that you were inherited it, but or given it, but what was your reaction when Limburg went off at in the S's on the first lap?
He did a quite aggressive move into turn 1, and then he decided to keep it too wide. And of course, through the S's, that's very dangerous, and we collided a bit. And I was just able to keep the car straight, but Johan didn't. I think there was a lot of risk from his part there through the S's. It's very dangerous.
Yeah, big shame. We lost quite a good fight, I can imagine. But from then on, it was just a case of keeping your nose clean, I can imagine. That's probably quite it. Well, it is quite important in terms of the of the championship. What do you think your hopes are in the championship from now on? Because the races are running out, and there's still over 100 points to Mache. So, what do you think realistically you can achieve from here?
I wanted to get some more wins in this season, and I did so today, so that's good. I'm not keeping my hopes up to win the championship. I know Mathieu is a very good driver, and if he just keeps doing what he's doing now, there's no way on earth that I'm gonna catch him and win the championship. I'm for a few races already looking behind. David Junt is having a very good second half of the season, especially in the races too, as the reverse grid. He's able to maximize on that. So I'm just looking behind, trying to secure my second place. I'm still waiting for Mathieu to be banned because he's using hacks, but of course that's not going to happen. But that just empathizes how fast he is here. There's just no way of keeping him behind. It's just he's so quick, and for me, it's just finishing second in the season would be very good for me.
Right, thank you for that. Yes. So that was Roy Schroten, winner of race 1 and second overall in the championship so far. Moving on to our race 2 winner, if that's okay, if he can hear us, Maciej Młynek.
Hello.
Hello, Maciej. So, of course, you started the weekend quite disappointingly, of course, with a grid drop for race 1. You, of course, qualified on pole initially, and then got dropped to 23rd. I'm not actually sure why that was. It would have been something from last round, was it? What was that for?
I cutted the track on qualifying session, but not on the last round on Suzuka, but on Singapore. But this penalty just was like delayed. That's what I received as an info from Chris Williamson.
Right. Okay. That could be why it wasn't on my penalty list then. Right. So after that, of course, it was a case of climbing your way through the field and seeing what points you could bag. I can imagine it was quite a relief when 12th place was picked for the reverse grid rather than 10th. Yes, or a position like that. But anyway, race 2, second to first. You got past. You got past into the lead on lap 1. Talk us through that move.
I just launched the move after the longest straight, and Conrad let me go, left me the space, and from that time it was just a matter of trying to pull away from others and saving tires till the end, because I knew it will be tough to finish the race without a pit stop, so I really took care of them.
I found it interesting that there were still quite a few pit stops going on during the races, despite the fact it was a wet weekend. I thought that the tires would be less affected because of the extra slip. Is that not the case?
No, these tires are wearing quite quick, so everyone must take care of them.
Right, thank you. That was Maciej Młynek, winner of race 2. Who else have we got? We have David Junt. So, if that's okay, that's race 2, second place, I think. Is that right?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, right. So, so of course you finished second in race 2. Didn't start that close to the front. I think you're on row 2 or 3. But anyway, I suppose it was just a case of trying to stick with Młynek towards the end. Was there ever a time when you thought that you possibly had a chance of a win this weekend?
Well, I started from P4. Yeah, that's not really front row. I actually counted on rain tonight, but came too late for what I had in mind of rain tonight. But in race 2, I tried to get a setup even more to wet weather. Yeah. But I managed to get to second then when I think Conrad spun. But Maciej was doing so consistent lap times that it's just, I think we were trading at most in tenths and something, and he still then managed to get a bit more time over me until Roy came closer and closer, and I started to focus on keeping the gap up, which I couldn't quite, but then Roy spun, and I could focus on the tires again, or more again on them, and with 2 laps to go, I think there was a time where the tire were kicked in, and it was a bit tough to maintain a line in fast turns. But I think in the end, it's being at the front and having consistent lap times. I think it wouldn't have been worth pitting for me because I was probably tiptoeing much, and Chris had much more pace than me, so it worked for him. But I was happy with how it panned out.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that was David Junt, second place in race 2. Was it 7th in race 1?
9th, I think.
9th, right. Okay. You were running 7th at one point, I know that. Right, now we also have Menno Klont.
Hey.
Hello. Right, so we saw you in the thick of the action in both races, actually. plenty of overtakes either from you or on you. How difficult were the conditions out there, and how were they affecting the racing?
Well, yeah, it was very difficult, of course. But I want to go back first, actually, to my qualifying, because I really, I hope I can use the word, I suck over one lap. So I believe it was in P14. But yeah, race 1 was going pretty well. Yeah, I was just moving up the order, and then we were looking at the rain. When will you pit for tires? Will you pit? Is it worth it? Because you lose a lot of time in the pits, of course, as well. So in the end, I think, yeah, I got P4 in race 1. I was on P3 with 2 laps to go, but I spun it, and luckily I could still finish, because that was well, a 360. But Terence got the podium. I think well done for Terence. Yeah, it was all about race 1 was all about choosing when to pit, and yeah. To be honest, I think I was a lap too late. Otherwise, yeah, I could have won it. But yeah, of course, that's what everybody says. Is if you are in the moment there, you need to see what you want to do. And yeah, I was already quite happy with P4. Yeah, a bit good that I lost P3. So then race 2 was that was the really wet one. And well, my strategy for the whole race was like saving tires. I had the idea that it would be very, very difficult to manage a set of tires in these conditions. So yeah, I just did my thing, tried not to lock up, being very gentle on the throttle. And yeah, in the end, I was in 6th, and then it became 5th, and it was getting better and better. And then when Roos Schouten made his mistake, I got P3. But in the end, it was very, very difficult. The last 2 laps were like driving on ice. It was very, very difficult.
Okay, thanks, Benno. Right, and finally, we also have Chris Butcher.
Hello.
Good, you can hear me. Right. So, Chris, we also saw you. We also saw you right in the thick of the action. Plenty of. I think I said your name possibly more than anyone else's. There were a few times when we saw a bit of wheel spin, for example, when you got out onto the curb, specifically on the exit of turn 9. Can you explain how slippery the curbs and the white lines can be in weather like that?
They can be pretty slippy, but to be fair, I think it was more my setup more than anything else. I think you'll have to ask everybody else, because it was like that for me in the dry as well.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, and which positions did you finish in again? You were quite high up in the order in both races, I believe.
Well, I was a bit in the wars in the first race, so I finished 14th in the end there.
Oh, that's right.
And then 5th in race 2.
Jolly good, good recovery then. Yes, right. So that will be the end of the broadcast for this week. So thank you all for watching it. If you're on the stream or wherever else you might be watching it, if you're live or later. But that's the end of it for tonight, as I've already said. So we'll see you all next time. Goodbye.